You are listening to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast.
When your heart is aching and your world is shaking, don't give up. No, don't give up.
Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope, the podcast. I'm your host, Jana Short, and today we're here with a very special guest, L.Y. Marlow. L.Y. is an award-winning author, multi-passionate entrepreneur, and empowerment influencer who helps women confront their fears, embrace their passion, purpose, and power. She is a powerhouse. She also writes for the magazine because we love her. So thank you so much for being here today, Marlow.
I am so excited. Thank you for having me, Jana.
And so I know I just called you Marlow and it's L.Y., so you probably don't go by your last name. Like nobody calls me Short.
Well, that would be funny, right? Hey, Short.
I know, especially when my ex-husband was 6'5", so nobody really called him Short. I love it. So you are like, you are so amazing, and everything you do is like so amazing, incredible. And when you said you would do a 4-part series for us, I jumped on it. I was so excited. And we're talking about the 4 M's. And I know today we're definitely going to talk about, is it mindset we're going over today?
Today we are starting with the most important M, always mindset. Always.
100%. Everything starts between those beautiful little ears of yours. So I'm going to let you just talk maybe a little bit about how you want to get rolling on this, because this is your 30 minutes. And I want you to educate all of our listeners on how they too can become an amazing entrepreneur using those 4 M's.
You know, I'm so glad we're going to take a minute to talk about why the 4 M's. And here's the thing. My own story is about having to confront some of my own challenges in becoming an entrepreneur. And I'm going to own it. I'm a fierce entrepreneur. And here's why I'm fierce. Because I had to try again and again and again to figure out what needed to work, what needed to come together to really allow me to excel. And so I came up with this concept called the 4 M's. And the 4 M's include these 4 things that you must absolutely know, you must absolutely have, and you must absolutely practice if you want to be a fierce entrepreneur. And they are mindset. We start with the mindset first. We're going to be diving into that, Jana. Then we're going to move into your mission. And when I talk about your mission, it's not just about your mission statement. We're going to uncover what that means. Then we're going to move into how do you maximize your impact? Maximize your impact. And then finally, the 4th M, the most important of all, is momentum. Because we get excited about the mindset and the mission and the maximizing, and then we dive out there and we start to lose momentum because it becomes what? Hard. Yes, it's hard. So those are our 4 M's we are going to be covering through this series, and you don't want to miss it, because I will promise you this much, Jana. When you follow us over these next 4 series, over these next 4 podcasts, I promise you by the end of those 4 M's, you will be ready to move into what I'm calling your Sasha Fierce. Your Sasha Fierce. Now,
I love it.
People to say, what is Sasha Fierce? We're going to talk about that too.
I love it. I think you are so amazing. So everyone, run and grab a pen and paper. You're going to be able to listen to this over and over, but literally this woman is doing it. Like, she's all over the place. And so she's going to share those 4 secrets with you, and I'm going to let her get started.
So let me start with M, mindset. And here's why. Because there is evidence that being an entrepreneur is 80% mindset and 20% strategy. Let me say that again. Being an entrepreneur is 80% mindset. What goes on up here is what matters first. If this is not together, and when I speak of mindset, I'm talking the whole you, right? And I'm going to talk about that later. But if you are not clear in your own mind if you are not clear about your own self-confidence, your own self-worth, your own self-purpose, your own self-impact, the 20% doesn't matter. The strategy doesn't matter. So everyone, first of all, has a gift or a talent. You are not on this earth. God did not make you, or Buddha, or whoever you subscribe to, did not make you without a gift or a talent. But here's the thing. When you don't use that gift or talent to serve, and when you don't overcome your mindset issues so you can serve, is that same concept about you use it or you lose it. You know how we work for companies, and if you don't take your vacation, if you don't take vacation, if you don't take your sick time, you don't take your personal time, you either use it or you lose it. And when you lose it, you lose the opportunity to show up in the world and serve. You use the opportunity to have an impact. You lose the opportunity to be the change that you want, we all want to see in the world. Change that we all want to see in the world. So it's always 80% mindset and 20% strategy. Now, when you get into your mindset, we all know Beyonce, and I love Beyonce. I was reading an article about Beyonce that talked about how she steps into her Sasha Fierce. Remember that big album that came out years ago, and it was called Sasha Fierce? Mm-hmm. And I was shocked to learn that she says she turns on her Sasha Fierce when she steps on the stage. So she may be someone who is normally very mild-mannered, and in fact, when you hear her talk, she speaks very mild-mannered. She's very polite. She's beautiful. She's very compassionate. She's very kind. But when she get on that stage in front of millions, she turns on her Sasha Fierce. Her Sasha Fierce is her badass, ego that she brings on and says, I am Sasha Fierce. As women, and men sometimes too, you got to turn on your Sasha Fierce. That's where your mindset comes in. So if you can't show up with that self-confidence, if you can't show up with that self-esteem, that self-purpose, that self-worth, turn it on. Guess what, Jana? You're not going to believe this. You want to know a little known fact about me?
I totally want to know a little known fact about you. I'm taking notes, by the way. Like, this is amazing.
Yes. Here's a little known fact about me. I am a fierce introvert. I am quiet-minded. I'm shy. As a little girl, I grew up poor in poverty and everything, and I grew up in an environment that told me I was not going to amount to anything. So, and those things were ingrained in me for a very long time. I used to stutter. I used to mix up my words. I didn't know how to speak, any of that. But I didn't have the words for it then. I didn't know I could turn and step into my Sasha Fierce. So right now, I am in my Sasha Fierce. And if you do it enough, that's who you really are. You just got to step into it. So I want to talk about when you step into your Sasha Fierce, here's some of the things that you need to keep in mind about your mindset. Number one, most entrepreneurs don't succeed simply because they don't take action. They don't succeed because, first, they may give up on their dreams, making excuses, procrastinating, having limiting beliefs. They may be waiting for perfection, the perfect time, the right circumstances. My attitude is choose always progression over perfection. Just step out there. That commercial that Nike came out with years ago, just do it. Just do it. Just step out there and just take one step at a time. And most of us, more importantly, don't do what is speaking to our hearts. That is why mindset is so important. We sometimes fail before we even try to succeed because of what's in between those beautiful ears of ours. What is in between those beautiful ears of ours? So if you step into your Sasha Fierce, if you say, you know what, I'm not going to let nothing stop me. If you get over what I call mindset barriers, here's the mindset barriers. First of all, limiting beliefs. How do you overcome limiting beliefs? Simply, you make a decision. I am not going to have limiting beliefs. Because here's the thing, most issues that we struggle with are either internal or external. Internal is our own self-talk, our own self-doubt, our limiting beliefs. And external are naysayers, our excuses, that maybe we don't have the time, the resources, the money. One of the things I often say to my community is you should not ever allow time, resources, or money to stop you. You can spend 10, 15 minutes a day to work towards your vision, to work towards your mission, to work towards your dreams. I was in a situation at one time in my life, Jana, where I didn't even know how I was going to pay my rent. I was eating rice. I was trying to save on toilet paper. And I'm not saying that for you to feel sorry for me. I'm saying that because I am here today because I kept taking one step forward. So most importantly, if there are any mindset barriers, lack of confidence, limiting beliefs, internal or negative, what I call monsters, my whole brand is called MonsteRise for a reason, because I wrote a book called Don't Look at the Monster, which where I was struggling with my own monsters, and monsters are worry, fear, doubt, shame, grief, all of those things, regret. Sometimes you just got to confront those monsters, learn to overcome them, and do it anyway. Do it anyway. Let me ask you, Janet, do you have any monsters?
Oh, yeah.
What was your biggest monster?
My biggest monster was when I I had a very successful business as an interior designer. And when I got sick, something changed in me and I had a purpose. I literally felt a purpose and I was driven by it. But I had that monster of age holding me back. Like, oh gosh, I'm over 50. How am I going to do all of these things? I have to go back to school. Who does that at this age? And yet, once I was able to push through that monster and put him in his place and step into my Sasha Fierce, it was amazing. Like, look at all the things that I've been able to create, but also look at all the people I've been able to touch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My story is very similar to yours. I remember I had gone to my doctor. I was working for a global corporation at the time, a technology corporation, and I was working 80 hours a week and it was literally killing me. And I also, at that time, I was like, I got to go to see Dr. Lee. And around that same time, I discovered a lump in my breast. So I went to Dr. Lee and I said, Dr. Lee, I am not feeling well. Fix me up. Oh, and by the way, I think I have a lump. He sends me off to get a barrier test. About 10 days later, I come back, one of which was a mammogram and all this other stuff. And he says something to me that ultimately changed the course of my life and really like drove me into my Sasha Fierce. He said, you do have a lump in your breast, but it's not the lump that's killing you yet, it's all this other stuff. This chronic stress that was generating all these other life-threatening illnesses. And he said, change your life or change your life expectancy.
Ooh.
Change your life or change your life expectancy. You don't have to have a lump in your breast or a serious illness to want to change your life. And that weekend, I went home and I got real still on what I wanted to do, what was speaking to my heart since I was 5 years old. And what was speaking to my heart was I always wanted to write. I've been writing poetry for as long as I can remember, but I wanted to write a book. That next Monday, I stepped into my senior vice president office. I stepped down. They wouldn't let me quit because I was working on this big program. And plus I needed to pay the mortgage, right? And they said, what would you like? And I said, I want to work from home part-time. And this was before telecommuting was a thing. And I started working from home part-time and I started writing my first book. And that book would go on to win 10 awards. And that was the first step I took towards my Sasha Fierce. So if you have any monsters, internal, external, debunk them. Move and take action anyway. Here's something, Jana, I want to share. What are the 6 qualities of becoming an effective entrepreneur? Because this is all about mindset too. Let's say you step into your Sasha Fierce. You've combated your monsters. We're always going to have monsters. You still got monsters, right?
Yeah.
And daily, yes. So you're never going to get rid of your monsters. You're just saying, you know what? You're there. Leave me alone today. I'm going to do my Sasha Fierce, right? Here are 6 effective qualities of a fierce entrepreneur. Number 1, always lead by example. Always lead by example. Even when you show up, even if you are a solopreneur, right? If you're a mompreneur, if you're a multi-million dollarpreneur, always lead by example. Meaning if you have a team, if you have a client, if you have a customer, if you have a community, show up and lead by example. Lead with compassion and kindness and integrity, right? I practice this. Remember what our mamas used to say? You get more honey with, you get more flies. No, you get more honey than you get flies or something like that, right?
You get more honey or more flies with honey.
You get more flies with honey, right?
Yes.
Use your honey. Don't use vinegar. You got to lead by example. So if there's anything, I know I get frustrated daily. Somebody half-ass do something or don't do something, whatever. I'm like, oh, but then I say, you know what? What is the gift, the lesson, and blessing? At least the person tried. Let me have the conversation because I still go after quality. And then let's get this person on track with what I need. The second thing, you got to have confidence. To be an effective entrepreneur, you must have what I like to say, swag. You know what swag is, Jana?
I do, and I bring it every day.
You got, yeah. What is what is one kind of thing you do that shows your swag?
Well, I smile a lot for sure, because that shows confidence, right? Even though like maybe I'm not confident in the moment, I put on a big smile. I am very intent. And by the way, swag is making eye contact for me too. Like it's really important for me to say, I see you. Like I'm here, I see you, and I'm in the moment.
And it builds connection.
Yes.
Right? It builds connection more than ever now. We're going into this post-recovery phase of COVID where I think, virtual reality is going to be a thing of the future. You got to have that eye connection because you don't have that face-to-face as much, right?
Right.
So that is so important because when you build confidence, you are more confident to ask for what you want. Particularly as women, we don't ask for what we want. You know what I tell people? And I tell women, give people an opportunity to tell you no. Go look for no's. Go out today and look for 3 no's. And then get surprised if you get 1 yes out of 3, right? The
100%.
third thing is communicate effectively. That doesn't mean, I used to stutter. My mother and father were Southern. I say things backwards half the time because I picked up the way they say it. My mother was, a high school graduate, but my grandmother only had 4th grade education. I grew up in poverty and povertized and everything. So I came from a community and a family. I was the first in my family to go to college. And I used to let that bother me. Like I say things backwards, but here's the thing. As long as I said it, right? Because most people are not trying to judge you. They just want connection. So however you connect, you build connection through communication. You know what the number one thing that most entrepreneurs are afraid of?
Talking in big groups.
Yes, public speaking.
Yes.
Public speaking, right?
I 100% get that because that is a hard thing for me. And here I am with a podcast. I'm using my voice every single day. And yet what people don't know is I had a stroke and it took me a while to be able to speak again. And sometimes still today, I'll hear something beautifully in my head. I go to say it and it gets jumbled. And then
you know what I hear when I see you talk?
What?
I see that beautiful smile. I see that eye contact. I feel connected.
My swag.
Yes, that's your swag. That is your swag. Communicate effectively means just communicate. Don't worry about getting it perfectly, right? Number 4, You got to be able to make hard decisions and be accountable. Anytime somebody says to me, well, LY, you know what? I'm sorry that I showed, up late, or I did this, or I did whatever, because my virtual assistant or my assistant or my VA didn't do that part. I immediately lose respect. Because even if it was my person that worked with me or for me or whatever, I'm accountable for my team. I'm going to work with my virtual assistant, or I'm going to work with my program manager. I'm going to work with my podcast producer and say, Amanda, I need this from you going forward. But never ditch your people under the bus. You're making the decisions, and any decision, even you're producing a podcast, you need to be accountable, even if somebody else screwed up. Number 5, you got to be able to ignite passion, enthusiasm, and inspiration in others. If I showed up here today and said, I'm going to teach you the 4 M's, and I'm like, so the first M is mindset. You'd be like, you would get emails like, who is that woman? Who is that woman? Right?
LY, I'm going to get emails anyway saying, who is that woman? I'm still getting the emails.
You got to be able to ignite passion. How do you think people are going to feel about your vision, your mission, if you don't show up and get excited about it? You got to bring it. You got to lead with that. You got to be able to ignite passion, enthusiasm, and inspiration. And number 6, above all, you always got to demonstrate integrity. Now, if you think about those 6 things, Jana, I didn't say you got to know your market plan. You got to know your customer. You got to know your unique value proposition. You do need to talk. We're going to talk about that in the other M's. But all of this is mindset stuff, because that's 80%. And then finally, when you have all of that, when you take action, when you overcome those mindset barriers, when you overcome your monsters and confront your monsters and just stand up to it every day. I call it the roommate. You say to the roommate, you know what, Fear, I ain't doing you today. I am not doing you today. And when you adopt the qualities of a CEO mindset, the 6 qualities I just talked about, that is when you are now able to step into your Sasha Fierce. That is when you can step into your Beyonce, your Sasha Fierce, and say, you know what? I am here. I may not be perfect. I might stutter. I might not be able to just say it perfectly. I may not be able to do it perfectly. This podcast might not work out the way I wanted it to work out. But guess what? I am Sasha Fierce, and I am here anyway.
So now you guys see why we were begging her to come and do a 4-part series, like so much goodness. I do, before we get off the show, I want to ask you a few questions. Like, one of the things you offer is a 3-day intensive mastermind called FAST, where you help women launch their vision or business. And I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about it.
Absolutely. So I started a program, is a 3-day mastermind called FAST, which stands for Fast Action Success Technique, that I help them within 3 days. They will be on their way. They will have a blueprint and a roadmap to launching their business. And then I work with them to get their business launched in 90 days or less. There's no reason why you can't get launched. And what I say to them is, let's break it down. You got a big vision, we'll break it down in smaller parts. So that is my FAST. I am actually right now in the process of looking for my next FAST mastermind cohort. So if you're interested and want a strategy call with me, a free strategy call to learn about how I could possibly help you, I think the URL is going to be in the show notes, right?
It most certainly is.
And it's bootcamp.lymarlow, LYMARLOW.com. bootcamp.lymarlow.com.
And by the way, like 90 days, you might think, oh, I can't create this empire. Well, by the way, it all starts with the very first step, but there is no reason. I do the same thing. I tell people all the time, you can have this done in 90 days, 90 days from start to finish, and build an amazing business. So I love that you're doing this. The other thing I want to ask you, which I love, is about Monster Chicks and Skits.
Yes,
I know you're
yes.
launching a women empowerment theatrical phenomenon called Monster Chicks and Skits, and I hope you would tell us about that.
Yes, so Monster Chicks and Skits. I wrote this book called Don't Look at the Monsters, where I brought the monsters to life in my book. I brought to life fear and worry, doubt, regret, and women were resonating with that. And so I decided to now turn this into a theatrical phenomenon where we use puppets, characters, and me to create topics around subjects that we struggle with in our monsters that is going to be funny and very comedy. So we're using comedy, conversation, and connection to help women confront their monsters and to laugh at it, but at the same time, inspire them to take action.
And you do this all over the place. How can someone who's interested in bringing Monster Chicks and Skits to their audience, their workplace, conference, summit, how do they get in touch with you for that?
Just go to my website, lymarlow.com, lymarlow.com. If you have a event coming up, a virtual event or, in-person event, or if you have a workshop or a women's group or whatever it might be, you would want to do the Monster Chicks and Skits because it is really transformative.
I love it. Well, LY, thank you so much for being on this. You guys, we have 3 more parts to this series, and I'm so excited. Like, I cannot wait to get to the next one. So stay tuned for part 2 of the 4-part series. Thank you, LY.
Thanks for listening to the Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. Make sure to visit Jana's website, bestholisticlife.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, or listen there, so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show, that'll help too. Let's change the world together, one health expert at a time. Looking forward to seeing you next time.